हेलो हेलो। आवाज़ आ रहा है गाइस? चलो फिर से वापस आ चुके हैं। थोड़ा पीसी क्रैश हो गया था गाइस, इसलिए मैं
like realizing, all right, with this kind of hard shift, we're not going to win this game, right? Let's adjust the strats. Let's go and just play edge, put some points on the board. And that's exactly what they did. And this is what I
चलो
was kind of talking about at the top
वंपायर
of
ने
the
वो
show,
फर्स्ट
right?
मैच का
Like
चिकन
that was a
डिनर
perfect
निकाला।
scenario for them. Now, other teams, right, in certain situations that are so low on the leaderboard, maybe you got to go for that crazy play, right, to try and win the game. But, you know, Alpha 7, they're still solid on the leaderboard. So to put up as many eliminations as they did perfect.
6 एलिमिनेशन 16 पॉइंट। अल्फा 7 का भी डिसेंट मैच था। जूस का भी ठीक ठाक है, इनको का भी ठीक, अच्छा खासा पॉइंट उठा लिए। आरामी ब्रो का भी ठीक ठाक गया, बीटीआर का भी ठीक 8 पॉइंट, ट्विस्टर मैन का भी 5। इनको ज्यादा करना है, जैसे बीटीआर हो गई, नहीं बीटीआर तो ऊपर ही है।
They might not have gotten
हरामे
any
ब्रो
considering
को
how many
कमबैक
teams
करना
were on
पड़ेगा।
that south
ट्विस्टेड
side.
माइंड बॉटम
Such
में
a good
चल रहा है।
rotate from Zeus. It really enabled
Bottom
them to
five
get so many
सिनको ऊपर
decent
आना पड़ेगा।
eliminations this game, and especially BTR, right, Jukes, when we're looking at their position, was so split in their compound, which makes you very vulnerable to breaches. It's good for information gathering, but breaches, it isn't quite the way, so they just got picked off one by Zeus, and that hold was just not quite working out the way BTR expected.
Yeah, really, really unfortunate. I mean, BTR, you know, especially for such a big change and swap in roster, I think that was the kind of like the right play, to be honest. I mean, just, hey, play it safe, put some good points on the board, and just kind of gain your confidence up. So I'm not really too upset with how they played that one.
I don't want to say that was a roster change that got him that many points in this game. I feel like that was just kind of an opportunity.
Oh, I didn't say
take
that.
advantage of it. I kind of want to see how it will play out the rest of the day, though, because they are kind of, at least were, very, very near that bubble. But MVP to be newsy, of course. I mean, Vampire, like, again, at least for them, considering they were down to 2 players and still a couple of teams left alive, it was good for them to just hold on and then close the game out, because the points they got from this game is really going to help them get up in the leaderboards and potentially break through the top 3.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a top 5, top 4 kind of position, because Team Spirit did get like a few eliminations here, and they're currently the cutoff point when it comes to entering top 3. But yeah, so they're still going to be in top 3. But here you go, Vampire able to jump up to 5th place here with actually the most chicken dinners this tournament so far. Hodrix, 3 chicken dinners on board, currently our top team when it comes to that stat. So looking really solid.
Yeah, take it to the bank for sure. It's crazy that they have 3 chicken dinners and aren't in top 3. That's pretty wild, you know, considering. But you know what? I mean, they're right there, 8 points away from 3rd place. Again, you know, top 3 is the goal, folks. That gives you that ticket all the way to the finals, and then 11th place on up, survival stage, everybody else going home. And honestly, that's where my eyes are on, because you know, these 5 teams, they
आज किसी ना किसी प्रकार से डीएमआर लूप्स आरएसजी ब्रो ट्विस्टेड को ऊपर जाना पड़ेगा।
They eliminated Major Pride and Demuerte, and they were still looking to fight even more. They got an extra elimination on the 3rd squad after that, so they had to end their reign of tyranny in this game at some point. It was going to be tough for them to keep players alive, but here you go. Our top also, Grenadiers. Hoxie's still going to be up there, which, no, off the back of that crash, Jason, he couldn't get much done, unfortunately, but we know that Arangua and Miramar, the maps where we really know that Miran and Sejong perform well at, so as we leave Sanhok, I know that this is going to be the maps they're going to try and perform better on.
I mean, Hawks was their MVP yesterday too, so we're seeing Mir and Sejong just not only dominate the leaderboards, dominate the MVP. I know we were talking about potentially seeing Nomi up there yesterday, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. He couldn't quite make it with the performance MSJ had. But MSJ, I mean, yeah, I think I don't know if we've talked about necessarily, but I know we talked about it while we were actually watching the game. Like that was a game-winning play for them to just send it right away before any other team did, and just unfortunately they lost out. And I remember, Max, you were saying like you like the idea, but the position they took is very nadeable.
It's very nadeable, unfortunately. The entry point is rough because, I mean, Duke's talked about it. You can get shot under the building, which is always going to be a tough situation to get into. And it's so nadeable, so malleable also to some extent. And I think they expected, right, Hodrix, in that situation. Their mind was going to, if we rotate quickly, no one's going to have enough time to get to that spot. I think that was the overarching idea, which is a good spot. And also that compound, let's not forget, right, was the winning compound for Major Pride.
कोई खुश नहीं हो भाई, इनका चेहरों पे इंटेंस देखो.
Vampire, they drop there, they like to play there. You got to be careful. The vampires are always around to just ruin your day.
For sure. I mean, like I was saying, though, you know, when it comes to that play, I'm not mad at it at all because they're going for the win. You know what I'm saying? They're still playing for that dub. And a lot of teams, when they're in the top 3 position, sometimes they'll adjust their strategies at this point in the game. They're like, hey, you know what? We got enough points. All we got to do is just put some on the board. You know, nah. We just saw them full send it towards the center. Yeah, unfortunately, they lost that fight. But if they won it, right, they could have easily won that game. So I mean, sometimes you got to make those coin flip decisions, and I love to see them still playing the game that got them here in the first place.
Well, as we do have our 3 Erangels coming up back to back there after this, my focus again gonna be looking at BTR Inco, though we didn't have any single hot drop happen yesterday between those 2 teams. It seems like BTR or Inco or both have decided, yeah, we're not gonna bother to go for it right away. But one thing I will say is, are we going to continue to have these like quarry zones happen, these southwest zones? I feel like a majority of the Erangels we've had, and keep in mind we've had 6 so far, at least half of them have been very near to the same location.
Yeah, I mean, we have been very
second match we start
for a long time now, so it is good to see a bit more of that eastern area, and this will definitely change up drop spots as well and give more opportunity to fill the entirety of the map, because I don't think we've even seen a Lipovka drop so far here on Erangel. So we'll see what the next circle does. Most likely going to be west, right? But I do think that for Vampires, it's a scary one to be winning over on Sandhawk for a lot of squads, just purely because now they'll have momentum going into Erangel, which we know is a strong map for them.
Vampire dropping not over towards Milter Power, rather, here on that east side, early out. Twisted Minds dropping out on the south coast as well. Looks like teams who can sometimes like to drop out on that west side, going to have to readjust here. Twisted Minds going to be dropping on Milter entirely. Potential hot drop around Novo on the south side, over towards the military island, and the circle will keep us out to the east as well. Harame Bro and De Muerte on that south could come into contact with one another. RSG surrounded by Team Spirit right now and want to get out of there as fast as they can. Oh, maybe not.
For RSG,
अरे नाइस वन, एक उतारा.
I mean, it's a good shot to start things off for Nomi.
चलो दूसरा को भी उतार दिया.
And one from the backside.
ये भी गया, lightning भी गया.
Lighting, last left alive here, and
बस एक
incredibly
बुलेट का
low,
बचा
no
है भाई.
less.
Oh, he's going to go through the knife throw.
Yeah. Ooh, it's a hit.
बुलेट खत्म हो गया लग रहा है.
Not quite going to kebab him just this time around. Effect still popping a couple of shots at long range, grabbing more loot on board. Goes for the fisticuffs there for Nomi.
Nomi को एक finishes मिला. ये किसका है?
I mean, for Team Spirit, perfect start for them. I mean, it's an odd one for RSG to drop even a round farm in the first place. They know it is Team Spirit's drop spot. This is where they thrive, and I don't think they've had really much opportunity to fight in this area, so they were somewhat excited for it.
Yeah, able to rack up. Well, there's 2 players still down for RSG, so whilst 1 elimination is on the tally, it's likely to be 3 for Team Spirit to kick things off. Good news. The plane path being so far east, I mean, it does isolate those vehicle drops, and I think RSG, sure, they didn't want to stay around here, but they were just trying to grab vehicles. The roll up towards Nomi, I don't know if they knew he was there. Let's take a look at some of these knocks that came through earlier. I mean, yeah, there's Matic, who just protected his teammates so well from that off angle, able to get the spray down in the open. But RSG, they definitely didn't want to be sticking around too long. It was just unfortunate that they ran into the roadblock.
Yeah, you can tell they're trying to leave. And I mean, they were looking just to pick up an easy elim over towards Nomi. And I think that when you look at that fight, yes, technically is sort of in their favor. But the fact that Nomi had 2 weapons already so early in the game, he was a bit of a force to be reckoned with, particularly because he is just a strong player. It is, unfortunately, that idea of how good he is at the game that does make him make some of those somewhat, I don't want to say questionable, but somewhat greedy plays. I think he knows better than anyone that I can hit that shot.
Maestro the coach.
Maestro the coach.
Were you guys expecting to be so successful so quickly? Because you guys have been absolutely tearing it up the first 2 days.
이틀 동안 아주 좋은 모습이
भाई
보여주셨는데
जिसका कोच ऐसे है
이렇게
बताओ
빨리 성공할 거라고
परफॉर्मेंस कैसे नहीं
예상하셨습니까?
आएगा
제가 생각했을 때는 성공하지 않았다고 생각을 하고요. 아직 많이 부족하기 때문에 목표를 위해서 더 열심히 노력하고 성장하려고 하고 있습니다.
Yeah, I don't think we have already succeeded. I think we still have a lot of shortcomings and a lot of things we need to grow up, but we do work harder and we'll work harder to make sure we can achieve our goal.
Well, that's definitely what you want to hear for a team that's currently tied, at least starting off day 3, tied for that first place with major pride. When we get to the end of this week, when we get to that day 4, where do you expect your team to be?
우리 팀 지금 2등이 있는데 4일 다 끝났을 때 몇 등이라고 생각합니까?
저희가 실수하지 않는 한 1등이라고 생각하고 있습니다.
If we don't make any mistakes, I think we will be the number 1.
Oh, you guys better watch out because MSJ wants to be first place of Group Yellow. 감사합니다. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Seven, for a little catch-up there from the start of the day from MSJ. And you heard it from him, right? If you don't make any mistakes, you get all points. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? If you just don't die for longer than everybody else, you win.
With MSJ, though, that is their MO, though. It's just very clean gameplay. And I think that was something that was holding them back a little bit towards the beginning of this tournament, was the fact that they were trying to play such a clean game that other teams could abuse that fact. I mean, remember we saw when they went down to just 2 players, they were insistent on making what is the quote-unquote right play versus vampires in the fields, which is we're in a 2v1, I should res my player and get us into a scenario where we can trade off one another. But vampires, again, in that moment, this is a good call where he's like, I'm not going to res. Instead, I'm going to push over towards where I know that res is going to be going through and take the fight there, which is something that comes with experience. So for Mirin Sejong, that has changed over the last couple of days. They're making some more aggressive plays, and that is a lot marshaled by Hoxie. And it's good to see because you do have the rest of that team, which in general keeps one another in check. But it's good that Hoxie is there to unleash that beast when it's required.
Kitsune down. There's no way he gets back up here. Demuete too close by, and he was caught out by Demuete on that south side rotate, coming back over from Novo. And Team Spirit down to 3.
Not ideal,
no.
but certainly doable. Still doable. I mean, they're inside the circle. They're in not a horrible position to be in. I think when you look at this map, though, it's hard, though, right? I think that for Team Spirit, they're a great team at looking at those rotations, realizing where teams are coming from and how to make those rotates off the back of it. Kitsune is generally a great scouter for the squad, at least recently. And I think that for that play in particular, it's a question of how quickly did Demuete get across that road? When do they send through? And on this circle, we just haven't seen too much of the eastern side of the map, so it's hard to pinpoint exactly what Demuete does in this situation. And realistically, this is a late crossing for Demuete. Usually they're across much quicker, and I think that Kitsune was buying into that fact.
Yeah, you may be reading a bit too much into what should be happening rather than what is perceived in front of him, though. It's a really difficult call to make, and it's unfortunate. Team Spirit is still in a fairly decent spot. They've still got 3 of their players alive, and they're kind of used to this, right? From back in the EMEA, we kind of harshed on Kitsune a lot for going down early in these games. So this is a scenario that they're not disfamiliar with. Is that a word? I don't know. We'll go with it.
Unfamiliar.
That's absolutely the right word.
Yeah. But I will say this is something we're seeing a lot from our teams during this lobby, and it's something that we've desperately wanted to see from Team Spirit for a long, long time, which is going for more of these gamble situations where you know that compound could be free. It's not 100%, but you'll try it out anyway. And Kitsune is the one making those calls. In the past, he used to be a little bit more passive, but I'm glad that he's kind of taken that back seat to it in the sense of I am a good backstop and I am a good scout and I'm a good IGL. I can help the team get to where we need to go. But if anyone's to go down early, it should be me, because Matic, Effect, and Nomi they are the backbone of that squad, whereas Kitsune is the brains, right? He can go down and it's fine as long as the other lads can continue onwards. And he's provided good intel back there. And this is what we're seeing from plenty of other squads. Alpha 7, Mirren Sejong even go for something very similar, although a little bit more quiet. And generally their rotations are very clean. Like
Loops
I said,
को
as a
ज़्यादा
team
knock
that has
किया.
been doing a lot of homework in the background. And it's evident during this PMGC groups.
Loops moving up towards the hills south of Shelter. Doing so fairly successfully. Team Spirit taking residence to the west of prison on the Harry Potter Tower.
Twisted Mind versus Vampire हो गया.
Vampire now moving into the compound on the southeast side of the hill towards Milter Power. At the top, near the lumberyard. Twisted Minds trying to hold them out right now. And Stoned, Newsy taken low. Tony K taken very, very low there. First aid going off. And they will need to get that health bar back up.
लगने वाली है
Found in
Twisted
response.
Mind
Doran
की.
is low. Lord is away. Sorry, not Lord. You've got... I'm not too sure how that is. I think it's Coops who is off in the back.
अरे nice nade
So
रे
potentially not able to go for the backup. A nice nade over towards Robs, who gets
अरे
two balls
punish
on the
भी डाल
rooftop
दिया
for my
भाई.
liking. And the nades find him, get immediately flushed away as well. And now I think Coops
RSG versus Sarame bro हो गया.
Vampire from just launching themselves in. Or perhaps, yeah, maybe just move Lord away, move Doran back. Because you're losing players, you're just hemorrhaging away from this fight.
MSJ का जोक्सिब उधर फाइट ले रहा है.
It's tough. It's very tough. I mean, Twisted Minds are doing their best right now to hold on.
Twisted Mind back foot में है इस
personal and fairly healthy, all things considered, other than Schweppes. This is a tough fight to be in. They don't have control of too many angles.
Surin भी
They're
गया.
forced to use a lot of this smoke
Finish डाल
to
देंगे
keep
भाई
themselves
सीधा.
at bay, but Doran being caught off guard, being that front line, that's really
चलो.
awkward. And now for Twisted Minds, they realize, you know, they got to give up the ghost here. Losing Lumberyard.
Load निकलने का कोशिश कर रहा है.
Yeah, they're down to 2 players now, and Vampire
चलो
pretty
निकल गया.
convincingly take care of that one. Circle centers up a little bit further north over towards prison.
MP versus Team Spirit भी हो गया उधर. कितना फाइट चल रहा है भाई एक ही वक्त
up
पे.
this way. Lumberyard in general is not going to be as valuable given this.
धोनी के तगड़ा प्लेयर है भाई. 2 finishes ले लिए.
No, but it definitely has value in terms of like understanding where those rotates are coming through though, and as a scouting position, it's fantastic. And I think at Twisted Minds, they'd like to have stayed up there a bit longer before they potentially made a push over towards that eastern side. I think if I was Vampires, I'm waiting for stage 3 before considering.
अरे nice रे
Nomi
नोमी भाई क्या उतारा.
Nomi catches off Lord on the rotate.
Sexy spray बोलते भाई.
Here. This is what Team Spirit's always very good at, and something you won't see all that often is a game where Team Spirit goes down with 1 or 2 limbs. But yeah, a heavy northern shift on the circle.
भाई second तो जो नहीं है कितना फाइट चल रहा है.
Wrap over towards that eastern side. It's a perfect opportunity to get in towards the northern edge of the circle here.
Chris के फिर से लग गई. फिर से एक खराब मुकाबला.
That incredibly powerful heaven compound that sits above this
इतने aggressive मैच
I'd
में
be
कब तक
interested to see
टिकेगा ये
when
अकेला.
Sewu regroups, or if they regroup actually down towards him, back over towards Mansion and the compounds that sit in the southeast. If they hold this 2-2 split, I mean, this is kind of crazy from MSJ. I feel like this is a very, very big split, and they're going to get noisy neighbors.
चलो बाहर हो गया twist.
Able to find the remnants of
और
Twisted
एक
Minds.
गंदा मुकाबला.
It's hella greedy, but
वैसे काफी मैच है
there is a
कमबैक कर
situation
सकते
where
हैं लेकिन
when you
खेलना
play
पड़ेगा
Mansion,
वैसे.
you can comfortably play either sides of it. So they give up the western side and allow teams to come in. They're just going to play that eastern
टॉप 11
edge.
में जगह
We're
बना
playing for
सकता है.
stage
इतने
4
मैचेस
right
तो
now.
है. बट फुल अग्रेसिव
not-
खेलना पड़ेगा अभी.
I think a lot of teams don't think it's ideal crashing onto heaven unless it's absolutely necessary, in which case that rotation is going to come back through from Mirren Sage.
10 मैचेस अभी
I
भी
think the
बचे हैं.
difficulty for that team right now is for Sewu as well as I think it's Jaysuk down towards Mansion, is keeping the vehicles alive. It depends where they've actually placed them, because they will desperately need them if they need to regroup back over towards Final and Hoxie. But yeah, they are split now.
And they're sort of entrenched in that split, right? By Major Pride, by Team Spirit. By everybody else, DRX on their north side as well. So potential difficulties for them because of that. Vampire, they continue to just slowly march up from the southeast side. And I like it, right? This is something that Vampire.
MSJ ने भी 4 finishes ले लिए हैं.
It's something that they are not unhappy
Team
to do,
Spirit
right? They're
को
not,
भी
they
पास
don't
भी
just want
4
to play like the lobby.
Please
They want to play like Vampire, and that is how you carve out an identity, the legacy here in PUBG Mobile. So I'll see if they can have a legacy in this game too, because there were 2 eliminations. They took down Twisted Minds, and They don't really have too much to worry about for the time being a little bit close to the edge, though.
Yeah, they're one of the few teams in PMGC that has capability on every single player to be what I would call a clutch member of the team. I think that's a big difference maker. And it does change your playstyle, right? Because for teams like, sorry to come back to Mirror and Sejong, they don't have incredible firepower, but they have this really good tactical mindset. But that doesn't open opportunities for them to be an edge sweeps team. They have to much more rely on that macro. Whereas for Vampire, they have another option available to them, which is we might not always be in the strongest location on the map, but we are happy to fight teams and create scenarios where we can pressure other squads out and open space around the map where we need it. And I think that's definitely interesting. So the circle does shift off over towards Mansion at this point in time. Final and Hoxie would like to relocate. But if I was to say one JSOC, I'd be like, there's a lot of teams here. It's probably better that we come back over towards Heaven because it's going to get very hot in Mansion soon. And we've back up I don't think it's wise for Hoxie and Final to regroup with JSOC and Seiwu.
Nice decision.
Might be a threat though from whatever the conclusion of this fight is here between DXavier and Aura that could dictate how powerful that position is in the Heaven compound. DRX could also look to move up there. Major Pride holding off their corner of the central compounds. They are closest to the middle of this circle right now. RSJ thought that they could take it from them, but Major Pride looking to dominate that southwest edge.
DXavier popping some tags over towards the players on the hillside. They have to move though. They know this better than anyone. They're outside the circle right now. We'll have to move in. Not a huge amount of areas to play though. Yeah, again, the reason why Mirror and Sejong's been able to happily play in Heaven for so long is because it is, as a lot of people will consider, a god compound. It's very hard to breach just because it's up on high, and a lot of those angles can be covered off by the rooftop positions that are on those compounds in Heaven. So yeah, this is the decision that I thought would come through. So Mirror and Sejong are regrouping with the rest of MSJ. Smart, I'm really happy to see it. That's exactly what I wanted from this team.
Western side, that macro praised by Blank. It's a difficult.
अरे nice रे उतार दिया तो बंदे को DXavier
headlong into Major Pride, who are now farming this lobby despite only having one elimination though, and racking up 2 there. Who's been taking all these elims? Where are they going?
3 के 4 finishes मिल गया. अच्छा defend किया Major Pride ने इधर.
They've just been stealing the elims from Major Pride.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. They've got the high ground. They can do it. So
who's going to stop them?
The fact they're on
Vampire versus Lux.
That's a very good name from Vitten. It's a long one too. And that cuts off their off angle.
Stone knock हो गया.
Vampires.
अरे nice one रे सीनो.
Weird. Nino
को ले लिया.
DPS. I think Vampires just out.
Nice one बिट्टू इधर.
After all I said about them as well.
Yeah.
Damn, I think that all does come off the back of that insane grenade.
चलो आखिरी बंदा भी गया Vampire को.
They are just swept aside. I feel like the suppressed auto shot is one of my favorite gunshot sounds in this game. It's so clean. It's so clean. It's clinical. You know, just looks good.
चलो इनको versus
Sinis out towards that western side as well. Does what Inco.
2 बंदे knock है इनको के. तीसरा बंदा भी knock. अरे nice one रे.
Fantastic job to hold them.
क्या team है भाई. Aggression देखो इनका.
Aggress over towards Heaven. I'm glad they regrouped on it as well.
देखो 10 finishes एक बंदा भी lose नहीं किया है.
At the moment, fantastic.
And already 10 finishes
even made the play to Inco, which was to use that momentum as you head up the hill to jump onto one of the high grounds. It was a decent ploy, a good try, but not versus the hands of Mirror and Sejong, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite teams in PMGC.
It seems like they're the table's favorite teams as well. They are jumping up. They're on 120 points now with the 10 eliminations they found. They fought BTR in Heaven. Maxman pointed this out in our group chat. They took BTR on in Heaven and absolutely destroyed them, which is how they got their first set of elims. That split that they maintained. Now they've come back. They pulled a bunch of the elims away from Major Pride, who are second place, remember, contenders for that top spot. And now they rack it up with an Inco wipe, and it's a really solid situation for them. The circle pops, it keeps the top side of Heaven compound in, which means that they can stay there for a little bit longer. It keeps that second lower tier of it down, which means that there's going to be less threat from teams approaching on that angle to try and sweep them through. So a really good spot for MSJ continues to be the case.
They're still in, which is good. And again, that
Loops को zone में
that
जाना
high
है.
ground is going to have so much benefit to them towards the late game.
Juice को मारना पड़ेगा loops वालों को. तभी उनको edge मिलेगा खेलने
I
को.
mean, Two Spirit's been able to get 5 elims, which is nice considering the amount of players that they're currently on.
Push करेंगे
The
loops.
easiest game for them. I think DRX might have
Loops
something to
push
say about
करने
that
वाला
though,
है.
from that northern side.
Juice पे.
Though, saying that, Mirror and Sejong should have an off angle on this.
इधर DRX versus
DRX,
Major
it's just coming. You
Pride.
can see the trees just giving them a little bit of cover there for DRX to slowly make their way through, but still it is dangerous. It's not hard cover. It's not quite good enough. As soon as they get into the compounds, then teams like De Muerte, like Major Pride, Team Spirit are going to start to pay attention to them as well, even though Team Spirit are only on 2. So DRX from the north, a difficult approach to make. Loops, 5 eliminations so far.
Hi.
They're looking for more over towards Zeus, who are still in this one on the southeast
Sir,
side. 4 players alive.
okay.
Gonna have to move a little bit
Revive मिल
further
जाएगा
forwards.
वैसे.
With Loops losing Rafinha on a knock, they're gonna have to regroup and move forwards into the circle.
Loops.
Yeah, Zeus over towards that east. Now, Zeus has been a standout over the last couple of days. Racked up a whole bunch of points. They do lose Rita, though, to Harame, bro. Unfortunately, the team tries to
Arey, nice one, Ray, Harame, bro.
Range, finds another on the roll-up and will decimate them. Shreds them as 2, but this should be an opportunity for Zeus, absolutely.
क्या खेली इधर हरामे bro.
Behind the vehicle, Molotovs,
2
ammo
man थे लेकिन
depleted
अच्छा
by that
संभाल लिए.
roll-up control from Harame, bro. But Maniac down to a nade. The res comes through on the backline for Zeus to keep them as 4, but Maniac
Juice को भी एक
burns
बंदे को
down and
knock
goes
किया.
to 3. Range is still alive, hasn't healed yet. Instead, looking more for that suppressive force. That
अरे
gunfire
nice
down
spray
towards
रे
Zeus,
भाई.
who's darkened as well, clipped away. And Harame, bro, are taking on 2 full 4 rosters on the south as 2 and coming out looking great.
अच्छा जोन है इनके
I think
पास.
it would be a very different story if teams knew they were just 2 players. Again, for Zeus here, it is a lukewarm play, in my opinion. As Horror finds Eren. Sky found the shots from the side.
Knock कर
Again,
दिया
if they
भाई.
knew there was just 2 players inside this compound, if they had more
चलो,
time to
अपनी
scout
story
it.
हो
That
गया.
did just give you the good cover to kind of mask how many players that are in that location. For Zeus, that would have just been a
ले लिया
simple,
वो
let's
please.
just all crash in and see what we can get done off the back of it. Loops had the right idea. It was just some very good plays coming through from
जैसे खेल रही
Harame to
हरामी
stop
bro
that from
कमबैक
happening.
कर सकती है आज.
Circle coming on through. It goes northeast. Major Pride in a priority position here. They have the corner of the compound. They can force all the teams on the inside to fight. Alpha 7 may be able to sneak something here as well. Given that they're on the outside, they could maybe establish. It's going to move away from that MSJ high ground. Finally, Blank, which is going to force them down.
चलो MSJ से भी जोन गया.
Yeah, they certainly will have to move forward. I think for them, though, they're most concerned about Horror off in the distance.
Stage 5 का
They
जोन
roughly
है.
know where they are.
8
The
teams
smokes have
बची
been
है.
laid down. So getting rid of them,
MSJ
it
को
would be
देखो एक
brilliant.
बार.
Zeus goes down with 0 points. I mean,
10
it is
finishes,
just
4
a
man strong.
pretty painful play.
यार
that they
तगड़ा
make
खेल रही है
over
भाई.
towards Harame, but I think they get so spooked in that moment. Horror is being cruel here. Really
होरा
biding their
DMR
time.
और DRX and Alpha 7 टक्कर दे सकती है MSJ को. नहीं तो
They are one of the most ultimate duos since Eddie Brock and Venom, which you guys can go and see at the cinema right now. It was The Last Dance.
भाई होरा के 2
Available in
बंदों
all
को
good
नॉक कर दिया.
theaters, so make sure you're checking that one out for the
Push करेगा अब
symbiosis
MSJ.
that we're seeing here in the PUBG Mobile Group Yellow.
Horror, lose a player.
होरा का एक
So, 2 elims. I think a lot of people had high hopes for Horror. It's not come to pass, though, in these games.
MSJ को edge मिल गया.
Send out, and this is exactly what
होरा
they've
को
got to do.
clear
is
कर
just
देंगे
fly
इधर
on
से.
over.
जगह मिल
They
जाएगा
know
खेलने
that
के
this
लिए.
team has already taken a knock. They know they're weakened. There's the fight they've got to take. They bait out the nades as well. Fantastic play.
रेड जोन बना देंगे होरा पे अभी.
That's a very well placed nade.
That does so much damage. Unfortunate it didn't get a knock there, but it's going to slow things down so much as the nades continue to bobble on forwards. That one just continues to find the mark. Aura taken very, very low. Mr. Boro
दोनों एक
goes
एक
almost
HP
down.
का
That one's
बचे
going to
हैं.
find Malik for sure.
बस.
No, okay. The spray downs instead. Hoxie
चलो,
finds another
खत्म.
knock. This guy is on a tear, and the nades do the job. Aura down, and now MSJ can navigate the open fields on the outside of this compound. 13 elimination game Blank so
Why?
far for them.
13
They don't say
elimination.
John. They are not
क्या खेल
going
रही है
to make
भाई?
a mistake up to this point. Can they keep that track record clean?
With 13 eliminations and 7 teams still remaining at 22 squads, it is
20 kill कर
a
सकती है क्या?
really strong game
MSJ
so far. Definitely being a bit of a point sponge here. Team Spirit
DRX
is
versus Team
more
Spirit हो
desperately
गया
how
इधर.
many nades do they have remaining and how many more can they scrounge from this building, because DRX aren't in the greatest of spots. Really not a lot of bullets remaining here for effect. With 2 players, it's hard to get a full squad wipe inside a building like this. What they have to do now is wait for the next circle and cause some big problems for them as they leave and hope another team chimes in. Hard fight to win 2v4.
DRX on the southeast corner. Sorry, on the northwest corner. De Muerte on the southeast corner. And this is what I was saying earlier. With Alpha 7 being on the outside, I feel
Alpha 7
like
के
they
पास भी अच्छा
potentially
वेज है.
have one of the
चलो
better
guys,
shots
this
and move this
prediction
one down
time.
south. That puts Alpha 7 into a little bit of a better position. There's a lot of open ground in front of them, and Mir and Sejong currently have Hoxie in the circle as well. So I feel like these two teams and Major Pride have the best shots into this game.
MSJ निकाल सकती है फिर से.
So very good lineup coming through from Mir and Sejong. An aggressive one at that. They know that they've got a little bit of cover, some of these trees, some of the rocks to play around with. Muerte
इधर काफी क्लस्टर है. MSJ उधर आराम से
Major Pride
निकाल लेंगे.
well,
सारे टीम इधर फाइट करेंगे.
Needs to leave eventually.
MSJ का फिर से अच्छा बन जाएगा ये
DRX
गेम.
though over towards Major Pride, takes Evo Station down, and it's going to be up to AZ to get the res. So only one sightline. Muerte may be able to capitalize off of this. There was a lot of damage sent through the smoke, but their sightlines are severely reduced now, and Alpha 7 under a little bit more pressure. The smoke train doesn't have too much longer before it's going to clear and open them up to a broadside, but Muerte trying to navigate this one, but they haven't found an opening towards Alpha 7. Instead, they get teared apart, teared to pieces as the smoke drops, and it's all going to be Major Pride racking up those points. Look at the devastation that lays before Muerte.
It's Mir and Sejong stealing them, actually.
Wait, what?
Inside the map, yeah, they were able to pick up 2 of those.
Oh, that's naughty.
15 elims. But Major Pride only been able to take 3 off the back of that. Team Spirit crawling their way in. Smokes are unleashed. There is a lot of action going on, so there's potential for Team Spirit here. But for them, this is now less about getting a high placing, but more about the elims.
Major Pride को भी आखिरी मैन बचा है.
In fact, knows it after he gets that tag.
Matrix.
Major Pride getting a knock over towards DRX. Another one. Team Spirit still fighting on the inside of the compound. Close quarters. They don't need to make macro rotations. They don't need to scout. And this is where they can frag. Effect and Nomi take care of it. Now they can turn their attention towards Major Pride, but they have to cross open ground with Mir and Sejong taking a peek over towards them. Effect into the smoke behind the tree. Has to tuck his ankles away. Get that first aid going. Nomi as well under the threat as AZ lays a nade in, but there's traded off by Nomi. Will be blasted away for a flush, but it's just Elementrix to stand. Trying to cross the open ground, does take some damage, but not quite going to make the full Monty there for Elementrix. Not going to be able to get that knock. Instead, gets spotted and from across the way. It's Alpha 7 to take them down. Mir and Sejong are still going. They've got 16 eliminations. Team Spirit with a solo, but it's Alpha 7 to be the major threat now on the outside.
Alpha 7 still has 4 as well, and I mean, Mir and Sejong is being kind of peppered by quite a few teams. Team Spirit, Effect's going to look to pick up some more util, some more smokes from these death crates, and go from there. Again, for Team Spirit, it has not been a bad game. Very, very good salvage game. We know that they're decent at that. Mir and Sejong
अरे भाई क्या उतार दिया बे.
Have themselves a tear, and it's Harame Bro who have lived out this game. They have not been in the most awesome of positions.
स्मोक में ही उतार दिया भाई. इसको तो हाई कारी बोल देंगे सीधा.
Guaranteed top 4.
अरे और एक को नॉक कर दिया.
Really nice result from them.
खराब कर देगा MSJ के.
Over towards Mir and Sejong. Federalis.
MSJ का खराब कर दिया ये.
He's looking for a second.
Defender.
Alpha 7 keeping them tucked in as well means that these reses can't really come through. The headland
Federal नाम है Federal.
the Brazilians right now. Could go a little bit further here. Effect is still in shore on the north side, but he's going to have to cross open ground.
Revive हो जाएंगे वैसे.
Mir and Sejong will not go down without a fight. They've got that first res on board as well. Effect crawling his way forwards through the smokes. Mir and Sejong being preoccupied with these reses is allowing him to do it, but Alpha 7 too quick. Eliminated on 80 elims though in 4th place for Team Spirit. Harame Bro ladder up once more. Mir and Sejong, have they met their match finally?
ऐसा तो नहीं होगा अल्फा 7 का फाइट MSJ से हो जाए और ब्रो का वो अकेला बंदा निकाल ले हरामे ब्रो का फेडरल लेकिन जोन नहीं है ओह जोन है एज है उसके पास अच्छा
right on the edge of it down to stage 9 this will push absolutely everyone
अगर
in Marin Sejong want to
जोक्सी को देखो भाई 7 finishes
that technically they have a little bit more cover to work with than Alpha 7
Oh, this is nasty. The smoke's there. Mafioso can't quite thread the needle this time around. The healing does come out, but they are going to have to tick up with those stims. Federalis is spotted. That is going to be taken by Alpha 7, and now it's a 3 versus 4.
जोक्सी को देखो
players
भाई
lined up behind the tree. Breakout wide for Mafioso.
16 finishes
for Alpha 7 as Revo peeks the other side of the rock to Carrillo. This is dangerous from Seiwu. Has got 3 first aids. Going to need to use one of them now. The vehicle smokes in front of him. And gives him a little bit of cover, but there's Hoxie found and 2 players behind the same tree. This should be an easy pickup for Alpha 7. Jay Sook the last to go. MSJ stole so much from this lobby, but they do not have the gumption to steal this chicken dinner as well. It's Alpha 7 on 4 players alive, surviving on the southeast side.
I mean, although they don't get the chicken dinner, it's probably the best PUBG mobile game we've witnessed throughout the tournament so far. They weren't able to get the circle on towards their side. They were consistently playing in from that west. Alpha 7 just have such good control of the situation. They played a fantastic game as well, to say the least. That can't be taken away from them. A lot of strong games. Team Spirit,
16 finishes.
Hey, bhai, rotates I've ever seen. But you know who can analyze this a little bit better than me? It's the boys on the desk.
Well, if we try extra hard, we might be able to, Blink. We'll find out here as we're going to kick things off, talking about this match. And Alpha 7, like you guys mentioned, taking the chicken dinner. But honestly, Max and Hot Jukes, the story of the match wasn't Alpha 7. It was still going to be Mir and Sejong.
Mir and Sejong.
I mean,
go for it, Jukes. I'm going to go for 8. Just go for it, please.
No, yeah. I mean, seriously, just what a game from this squad. I mean, you and I were going nuts when we just saw that push on the BTR in heaven, right? Once they won that fight, I mean, they just straight dominated. Inko flew in trying to usurp them, and they got shut down immediately. Just honestly, I think Blank nailed it when he said it's probably some of the best PUBG Mobile we've seen.
It's my favorite
so
game.
far this tournament.
My favorite game by far. This match has been absolutely incredible. And before we go really in depth in how the teams play and stuff, because there's a lot to really break down. Let's not forget, Mir and Sejong and Alpha 7, they dropped west. This was a very eastern circle happening for these teams, right? If anyone says, oh, we didn't get circle lock, I'm going to say, look at this game. These teams are incredible when it comes down to just rotations and map knowledge as a whole. Like Mir and Sejong were able to live so long in the field where it's just flat terrain. But if you know the terrain well enough, you've got some little slopes and rocks you can use to your advantage and stand out. But Alpha 7 here clearing out all of Mansion in particular, Jason, getting so many eliminations in the process because they were in such a great spot to get free elims from those squads.
Yeah, but I think one thing we also have to be careful with Alpha 7 is the fact that they were running a little bit low in ammo count, right? We were kind of discussing this stuff that because they weren't in Mansion, like in the midst of the skirmish, they weren't really able to loot any boxes off of that. So they'd be very careful about like what shots they did take. Maybe that's why we're seeing their limbs be a little bit low or maybe damage a little bit low. But still in the end, like to kind of realize we have the advantage to close things out against Mir and Sejong. If Federalis wasn't there, I do wonder who would have won that game because he really like was the guy to stop any sort of chance for MSJ to win that match.
Just what a crazy game in general. This was just absolutely gorgeous gameplay from all these squads. But I mean, when it comes to Marie Sejong, it's so crazy that we're talking about this team and they didn't even win. You know, they didn't even win the game, but just the way that they played it was just so perfectly executed. You couldn't really ask for anything more. And then, you know, Alpha 7 putting up some good points. I mean, people are...
Yes,
these squads are just doing better than we could have possibly expected.
They
won in my heart. Okay,
that's right.
In my heart, they were the winners of this game. I mean, eliminations alone. They got the biggest elimination game. So far. I think it was a 15 elimination game on Major Pride in match 1 in Sanhok. This is the biggest elim game we've had so far. It's so good to see Korea finally get this big pop-off moment outside of like D+ back in the first season of PMWI. But here you have some of these finishing moments, and you talked about Federalis here, Jason. His shots through the smoke, by the way, on MSJ was like, how the... This guy's got like an extra sense. He's Spider-Man in this match because he was incredible in those sprays.
It wasn't even just that too, because if you think back on what we just saw, right? They took down loops. pretty easily. And then Zeus, well, I'd say pretty easily. They only have 2 players left alive at the end of that. Then Zeus, who had a 4-man squad, was right next to him looking for a potential fight. Instead, they looked to rotate clockwise around the map, around the, 4 to like 6 o'clock position. And somehow Harami, bro, with only 2 players, were still taking out Zeus members that eventually it was just down to 1 player alone from them. So I was really confused how they were able to get so much done from that position. But to kind of rewind it back before that, one thing we have to talk about is this split max that you were looking at when we had Mir and Sage on with 2 people in heaven, 2 people towards mansion. You're getting a little bit nervous. I know you and Hotdrinks were discussing like, yeah, you're not a fan of the split right now, and yet somehow they were able to regroup without losing a player when you had Major Pride and Team Spirit in the way.
I was getting very nervous. I was getting very stressed there, Jason, because it's a good position to have until you get to phase 4, let's say, because a lot of teams are going to be trying to send it
भाई
in
बोला था ना MSJ का
ज़्यादा
ज़्यादा
or heaven or mansion,
point
so they were
मिलेंगे इसमें से
weakened by that position, but we were lucky, Jukes. They were able to regroup, and because they regrouped, they get 22 points on the board this match, followed up with 19 from Alpha 7. They are the top dogs right now, I'd have to say, MSJ. They are looking so good these games.
Oh yeah, I mean these guys are gonna rocket launch themselves, even further into first place. I mean after that one right there, and it was just that rotation as well, man. I mean it was so beautiful. I was so late. We thought there was like, oh man, the chances of them being able to actually regroup together without losing the players would be so slim. But they did it with ease.
BTR का भी खराब ही था.
They got all that just valuable information and made it work. I do think it was that final player though that kind of I think it was Federales that actually made it a little bit more difficult for them towards the end. But still, I mean, 16 eliminations, you got to hold your head up high.
You see BTR at the bottom like, it should have been me, not him. It's not fair. We took heaven
first.
भाई क्या चल रहा है इधर? मफीसो है 2 elimination के साथ.
For Mir and Sejong, they've had 2 firsts, a second.
इधर MVP का सिस्टम थोड़ा उल्टा है लग रहा है.
2 seconds, a fourth.
इधर सब कुछ देखते हैं, सर्वाइवल टाइम वगैरह वगैरह सब देखते हैं.
If they were able to take the fight against Vampire a little bit better and come out with 4 players alive, it could have been another first place finish for them. Like this team is on fire right now. The only thing I hope is when we
ना
get
तो हॉक से
into
होता है MVP अभी.
maybe the grand finals, if they do make it there, obviously,
इंडिया का
that they're
जैसे
not able,
रहता
or that
तो
they are able to replicate this, because it kind of feeds into perfect what we've been saying this whole year.
डोमिनेशन देखो एक बार MSJ का
right now anyone can win, and that result off that last match alone propelled them into
Major
a
Pride
massive lead now up against the number 2 team of Major Pride.
22 का difference है.
Before Jukes, the tournament started, I would say photoshopped.
Yeah, just no way. But you know what? Guess what? The Alpha 7 put themselves in 3rd place now. They are now in that running to be able to rocket launch themselves into the grand finals. But Team Spirit being knocked out. It's so crazy
18 point का difference है.
18
या 19.
That's just straight wild to me. But still, I mean, yeah,
Alpha 7 भी top 3 पे है अभी.
132 points so far, and the way they're playing, they're looking almost unstoppable.
Team Spirit भी आ सकती है.
I'm happy you bring them up actually, Jukes, because when you're looking at their 3 wins, that's of course like a great conversion rate in terms of how many games you played and wins. It's fantastic from Vampire, but they have 40 placement points, which means that outside of those 3 wins, they got 10 placement points out of like 10 plus games they played. Outside of that, it is quite low. So right now what I'm seeing from Vampire is they're quite hit or miss, and we need to see a bit more consistency in those bad games. I said it many times, right, Jason? That a good team for me is a team that when they have a bad game, they can still bring some eliminations, a few placement points on board.
BMR, Loops,
Arame. So Vampire, those bad games, I need to see a few
RSG twist. इनको तो come back करना ही पड़ेगा भाई.
Movement down towards the bottom part of the leaderboard, mostly due to the fact that what our top 4 were still alive very, very deep into that game, so they continue to soak up these points and just don't seem to show any sign of stopping. I did kind of want you to go into though the mansion position in the last match, because we had 5 teams all in that area. And it seemed like the only thing that was going to cause them to fight or move was going to be that zone. It was DRX, Demorte, Team Spirit, Major Pride, and Alpha 7.
I would say Magralen one pe hai. Going to mansion, because when the circle goes north of the shelter area, it is pretty much just flat terrain, fields with very little compounds, buildings. All you have is going to be heaven then, which is where MSJ ended up playing, and mansion. And mansion is actually available for a few teams in the late game, because these buildings are kind of separated from each other and are quite big. So it could host a lot of teams, but as we see, when the circle moves away, Jukes, that's when really all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the terrain between Heaven and Mansion is just literally wide open field. So when you have to decide between one or the other, I think you definitely want to lean a little bit towards Mansion because there's so many different places where you can kind of like just hide and just multiple teams could sit there, right? Heaven, not so much. There's like only a couple buildings that are available, and it's so difficult to even want to share that area. So you're gonna get into an engagement.
चलो रंगल मैच स्टार्ट होने को है.
Mansion just so packed all the way to the end. But yeah, look at that. Masterclass indeed. And it's so crazy to see exactly at this point. I mean, these guys are playing like they're the world champs already. Yeah. It's wild. I mean, hopefully they can keep that energy up, though.
Even going down to the Heaven discussion again, you could theoretically host 2 teams in Heaven if you really want to try and like work together as a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah,
you could.
You have to really try.
But seeing how Mira and Sejong here have been playing, Jukes, they don't want to share that compound because they know, no, we're not just trying to get into top 3. We are trying to win the game. So we're not letting anyone live with us in this area of Heaven. We're going to take you down instantly the moment you get even remotely close of our compound. So yeah, again, yeah, masterclass, absolutely. And I hope it continues.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we're talking so much about MSJ, but we have to give credit to Alpha 7 on the day as well. We talked about yesterday, they had a very, very slow day, not really mounting to much. And then day 1, it was basically just their Miramars, but they've already had a 2nd place finish now with 10 eliminations, and then a chicken dinner we just saw here. So just off these 2 matches alone, they've had a massive upward swing in their leaderboards, and I'm kind of curious if they can maintain this kind of pace over today.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but they're going for the win. That's for sure. I mean, and they did it in Sandhawk as well, right? It's so crazy to see just like how both these teams are playing right now. Alpha 7 now chilling in 3rd place. They're going to feel a lot more comfortable. I wasn't worried from them at all in day number 1 because every single game that goes by, they just adapt. That's going to be the problem, I think, for when it comes to MSJ, because Alpha 7, we know what they're going to do. What is MSJ going to do, right? Are they going to be able to maintain what they're doing right now? Will they dip? Or will they even, ascend further beyond? What do you think?
Sorry, I'm looking at the numbers here for MSJ. Those average damage stats are insane. 450 a game? Is that
it's crazy?
I want to double check that. What? That is ludicrous amount of damage here. He's doing every single match, Jason. I'm sorry, I had to go on MSJ.
23 elimination.
Max, who's your favorite team at the moment?
Yeah, who's your favorite team
in all of PUBG Mobile Esports? If I remember correctly, you would say it was Falcons, right?
It's still Falcons, but I kind of like what MSJ are doing. Is all I'm going to say. Give me way more.
Tickling your fancy?
I remember I asked you during the watch parties for CSA, like, what would it take for you to no longer be a Falcons fan? And I think you basically said like underperforming at PMGC and not make it to the finals. You might have a new fan here for Max. I'm a new favorite team, and you know what you say. You got to get a tattoo of them.
Hey, did I say? Wait, I don't remember this. Was this the party 2 days ago, Jason? I don't remember that.
You do remember, right, Jukes?
Oh, I remember. I remember. He said, you know what? He said, I'm going to say less and I'm going to say woo. That's what he said.
I did.
Yeah.
I said woo after, yeah.
He said woo.
Like a roller coaster. Well, we still have 2 more Erangels to come up today, and of course 2 Miramars on top of that. I kind of don't want to talk about them because I feel like we have talked so much, but Twisted Minds have had a really, again, slow day. I mean, they had a 7th place with 4 eliminations, mostly because of Coops single-handedly, I think, picking up those limbs. And then here they go out really early, getting 0 points. If we're talking about even not just them, I think, them, RSG, Loops, maybe not Demorte so much just yet.
एक मिनट गाइस मैं थोड़ा सा पानी लेके
and the only team that at the moment who is outside of that top 11, Harame Bro, was the only team to do so just in that last match alone with the limbs. They got 9 limbs if I'm not mistaken on Sandhawk, and they get a ton of limbs here too off Federales.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely some potential there for Harame Bro. I like the way they rotate. I think when it comes to fights, they're a little bit inconsistent at times. I think they had some good angles, but outside of that, it's been a kind of rough time for Harame Bro. But Twisted Minds, Jukes, I want us to kind of like all agree to some extent that let's just not focus on Twisted Minds unless we see something good. Yeah, I feel like we sound like a broken
literally
record.
That's what it is, because it's so difficult. I mean, they have so much pressure lying on them. Like they want to perform for, their families, their country, their organization. It's just so difficult because this is the organization that had 2 teams qualify, and it's unfortunate to see, one of their teams didn't make it here, and there's that added pressure because you want to perform better, because of that. and it's unfortunate it ain't happening now. So I think honestly, if you're Twisted Minds, you're kind of just hoping that they make it to that survival stage, you know, like they can make a good few games, get to that survival stage, and then bounce back then, because the chances of getting top 3, especially with seeing how Alpha 7 and MSJ are performing, it's just going to be too difficult to cross at this point, right, Jason?
I would say there's no chance. I mean, they're 100 points out at least right now, and I don't think they're gonna be able to do that. I mean, they have to over triple the amount of points they've gotten with just 2 days of play left to go. But I mean, besides obviously like Bigatron, I feel like not a bad changeup for them. I mean, obviously, like we can obviously say that they lost the fight against Mir and Sejong in heaven, but they lost the fight against the best team in the lobby right now, and they already had a 4th place finish 4 limbs on Sandhawk with the roster swaps we had happen. I feel like we're starting to see an uptick out of Bigatron. Just unfortunate that they couldn't hold out against MSJ.
I don't think they were ready for that fight. I don't think anyone would be ready for that fight realistically. But yeah, I still want to see a few more matches with this current roster to see if I'm sold or not on the current player changes. So BTR just need a bit more time to see how that's going to potentially go down. Though I want to bring up another team here, and I would like to know also what you maybe think, Jukes, about them. Is Xavier have been eerily silent, and they're one of the big name teams in this group. And sure, they got some decent finishes yesterday, but a few of them were because Parajin was remaining as a solo, or another player was remaining as a solo. We haven't seen these strong team finishes from DX outside really of the last 2 almost matches of day 1, with especially that chicken dinner over on Miramar. So Xavier need to get back on the board because they are slipping away slowly but surely from that top 3 position.
Arajin, yeah, when it comes to Xavier, honestly, I want to see something out of him this game, right here, right now. And I think it's something that we're definitely gonna see. You know, the first 2 matches of the day, you can always just kind of, you never know what's gonna happen. You got Sandhawk starting off, you got your first Aaron Gale. You know, now you should be fully warmed up right now. There's no excuses. You got to be able to execute here and now, and especially it's going to make things more difficult when you see these top teams performing so well. I mean, the first game we saw a sign of life because, you know, all the top squads went out so early, but then game 2 comes around and you see a 16 elimination chicken dinner. It's definitely puts you back on your heels a little bit.
I feel like Xavier have always kind of been this really hit or miss team. Thinking back to last year, thinking back to PMGC where they were definitely on point, and then thinking back to the event we did Max in Saudi Arabia after, they weren't even the same team, it felt like. Obviously swapping around Chua out of the roster too. Consistency is definitely something that's been lacking within this team, even though in PMSL SCA finals they did exceptionally well. So I'm not sure necessarily what it is for them, but also I turn my eyes towards maybe our only representative from Turkey here, Zeus, who great rotation on Sandhawk. I feel like they've shown they have a lot of potential. But slight consistency, maybe missing, maybe confidence. I'm not sure what it is necessarily, Max, but we've seen really good things out of this team. I mean, this is like the first time at PMGC, right? There's a lot of pressure on them to try to perform.
It's interesting we're talking about them because I would compare, maybe this is a completely bad comparison, but looking back at how the games have been played for Zeus, I would compare them to a Harame Bro, but it's more successful on their rotations and fighting in particular. I think this is a team that is learning so much on a day-to-day basis, Hot Jukes, right? Because when you have a team that has never played global before, they learn so much in the first day or 2. They know how to adapt to the tournament. So Zeus here, they are building momentum and they could get even higher on this match.
Well, the momentum meter's about to break here as we head into our second Erangel of the day, our 3rd match overall, as we'll send it back over to Blink and John Allen.
Mir and Sejong on the limit break game from that last time around. Let's see if they can go for the repeat from Lipovka over towards Gatka. We're sending over Erangel for a 2nd time today.
Indeed we are. Heading back over on this map. Beautiful stuff. Nice horizontal plane path, which means a remake's on the way. Obviously, right?
Must be.
Surely.
Yeah.
Surely.
It's 1 a day at least, minimum. It's a quota.
Can't be having a horizontal plane path. I'm just goofing you guys at home, by the way. Just doing a little goof there.
It's a blank prank.
So, it's a blank prank. Don't worry about it though. We are actually playing this game now. I'm worried I've cursed it. I don't think I have. But yeah, this is a nice plane path for a lot of teams. It's probably, I think the horizontal plane paths are one of the best for any squad inside this lobby, especially this one that cuts pretty much through the dead center of the map. No one's going to be dropping on one another's vehicles. I think the only difference here is that potentially there might be more teams dropping out on the eastern side and trying to pick up vehicles early, which might cause some conflict. But I highly doubt it. As we're heading into day 3 here, it is important to be making sure that you don't give up too many points early on because you have a long way to go for some of these teams.
be interested to see if Inco are going to hot drop. Looks like no. BTR have disengaged from that. Two teams that we talk about stubbornness, and this is what I wanted to see, Blank. It's a military circle. Look at that south shift on. Teams are going to need to move fast now. I'm expecting Twisted Minds to break down fast. Team Spirit, they have options, but generally what we've seen from them in EMEA is going for a fast drop, quick loot, send off the side of the cliffs and try and get for that swim early across to Sosnovka military base. Take a boat with them if they can.
Yeah, I think for a lot of our teams, it is going to be quick rotates all day long.
चलो तीसरा मैच भी
This is
स्टार्ट
very
हो
much
चुका है
confirmed Sosnovka military base. There is not really much doubt in my mind that this is not going there. It's also surprising that we don't have any teams in Sosnovka, considering the plane path was far up towards that north side. Haha, look at me going back on my words. This is the nicest plane path it could have been. It's not too bad. It's towards the center. JK! You get this crazy circle down towards that south side. For Two Spirit, we know what they do with this one. They like to head over towards Shark's Head and then just send it over the water and just swim it in.
Hello.
So there's northern compounds for RSG. Looks like they're going to go for a quick rotate over towards that western side. Demuerte, on the other hand, I'm so sorry, Demuerte fans. These guys love Nova at Moya. This game, they went Severny.
This is unfortunate for Demuerte. But you know, that's just how the cookie crumbles. They're going to have to come in. Maybe going through late to Military Island is always very, very difficult. Could potentially see boatates coming through. A lot of the Military Island is in this circle. Sometimes you get military circles where the south coast is cut out, which means those boatations are a little bit less possible. But maybe that's on the cards for them late. Alpha 7, Zeus also right up on that northern side. Alpha 7 in North George spread out with almost Zaki with Carrillo. And Stalba, Kameshki split for Zeus as well on the northeast side. So long rotates for them. Major Pride not wasting any time, but unfortunately, DXavier and RSG have both already made this rotate.
Yeah, I think that if we were playing in more of a tournament format, teams might gamble on trying to take a hold around this area and go for some big Elim points, but that can lead to quite early deaths, right? So I think a lot of teams are more looking just to send directly in towards the circle. On the other hand, the guys in the desk were talking about Twisted Minds. It is unfortunate. Yeah. If you're a Twisted Minds fan, fair enough. I will say one thing is I think that the recruitment team over at Twisted Minds did a great job. I don't think any of these players are bad. I think they need more time. So if I was to be able to speak directly to the Twisted Minds team, it would be a case I would keep these guys around. I wouldn't ditch this team just yet. I still think it has a lot of potential. It just needs more time in the kitchen.
And they took that time right back in EMEA. They really did find their feet, and it was very impressive what they were able to achieve. But it feels like they've gone a little bit stale here into PMGC. They need to, as you say, spend that little bit more time in the kitchen and get back on. This is interesting, actually. This is the first time we've really seen it. The hovercraft could potentially be a big change here. You can obviously transition from water to land with it, which means that if Harame Bro make landfall, they can immediately be quickly rotating onto those land-based positions rather than having to clamber up some cliffs, go on foot, try and scramble whatever they can together. There's a little bit of a crash coming through from DRX. I don't think DXavier have the firepower to hold it, but maybe I'm wrong because Kaikse is already down. That is traded off though, and immediately going to be flushed away. Finding more as well. They're looking for the back lines. Lamborghini able to trade it off, and Tudok sent back to DRX, so not all lost for DXavier. They still got 3 players, but a little cut around the side of the wall there finds Paragin. Now it's all up to Levi's on his little shack there, the ticket booth on the outskirts. QXZ gonna move on forwards. Trade it off, 2 knocks, 3 knocks to DRX, but it's not gonna be enough to take him down as DXavier will fall.
And they get the full reset on this as well, which is the best thing about it. It looked pretty dicey. So we currently have 2 Korean teams up towards that top 6, which is very nice to see here in PMGC. But curious, very curious that they both went for this exact same position on the map. And I mean, it's fair enough. You both want to head down towards that southwest side of the map, get yourself out of the way. You know teams are going to be trying to relocate over towards those northwest compounds. So you want to be one of the last places that gets crashed. But yeah, painful.
we've got a recap from 7 as to today's
Welcome to a quick
proceedings.
report with the 7WG as Alpha 7 was just able to get their first win of day 3. I got a chance to talk to Revo at the beginning of the day, and he was telling me that they were coming in with too much confidence because everybody was just expecting them to be in the top 3. They thought it was going to be easy. It was not. Today, they're going back to their usual playing style. Is Alpha 7 back? You guys let me know.
Absolutely. It's good to see Alpha 7 in that top 3 spot. 11 points just ahead of Team Spirit at the end of that game. But this is a difficult map for them, right? Team Spirit are already across. Alpha 7 not so lucky with that northwest position. May struggle to get on in. But as it stands, that western bridge is not looking too terrible. And here again, that hovercraft, if they had to make landfall with a boat there, they're on foot, they're not going so fast, and they might struggle. Same story for Vampires. This is actually one of the main situations where the hovercraft is going to have an impact, Blank, these military island circles, and we're seeing it here.
The hovercraft, it's nice to see, actually. I think it's hanky, and it's very nice to have. I mean, even Harame Bro picked themselves up 1-2. It's super defensible, which will change the game. It's one of the more meta-changing vehicles in the game, honestly, just in terms of those rotations you make. I think the biggest weakness with the boats in the past is that if you got spotted on a rotate inside one of those boats, it was so quick. As long as you had the teamfire set up, hello. As long as you had the teamfire set up, you could immediately destroy that boat.
Yeah, but with this, with the addition of the hovercraft, it's a little bit harder to go for that. Harame Bro, they roll up into the spot. DRX King of roll-ups. What on earth? Just completely whiffs the spray Federalis from the last game. Where did he go? Soez hops out and just clocks him. You can't let that happen, Federalis. What happened there?
Yeah, that was painful. Painful to say the least.
आराम से मार सकता
well
था.
played. A little bit of a quick angle reposition for them. The hovercraft is now finished. So it's not quite as... it's not massively tanky to the point where you can't just take it down immediately like a BDS, but it's very much still great for just sending directly into that circle. Eastern Shift on this one does move over towards that side where Twisted Minds is currently playing. Team Spirit have some reasonable rotations, but Loops have a strong spot down towards this middle of the circle. To see a good game from Major Pride because it's been a while and they have just been hovering with those residual points they've been able to achieve over the first couple of days, and then a couple of Elim points here and there.
We got wacky races down to the South Island. We've already had the hovercrafts. Now we're going into the skies with Alpha 7, taking an aerial approach to this one. And with the circle shifting out east, they might find a runway on the west side of it now to be able to get down and into it on foot.
I mean, for Alpha 7, it's certainly possible. There is plenty of areas where you can play on the southern edge. I think we have seen Alpha 7 multiple times in the past play towards some of these locations. The best thing about the glider, though, is the fact that unlike the boat where you can only rock up towards the base of some of these cliff faces, as we all know, gliders have a bit of flight to them, so you can get up towards the high ground. There is a specific compound down towards the southeast. You wonder just how much fuel they brought with them, but they were setting this up for a while. Unfortunately, the rest of the squad is just in a boat here, so it will be those 2 players looking to make landfall out in the distance, potentially scout out position. These 2 players to grab a vehicle, then recruit with them later.
This has only been allowed because the circle shifted out to the east, right? There would be teams littered around this area if it hadn't gone that way. So Alpha 7 allowed in there, and they read that circle very nicely. BTR with a very late swim, but it's got to work out. There's no contest on the northern shore. Not that they have figured that out yet, but I'm sure that they will do in short order. Again, 4 teams actually still on the north side, still on that main island. Zeus holding the north side of the east bridge, so I'm not really counting them. We've got MSJ still in South George, by the way. We got Inko in Pachinki, and you got Ora, who are just about coming to the south side near Farm, to Muerte on the east side near Prison. So a couple of crosses still yet to happen.
Yeah, and it's just because of that first playing path, right? I think it, if I'm honest, I think it lulled a lot of the players into this false sense of security where they're like, oh, lovely playing path, you know, chilled out game. Psych down towards Sosnovka. So we have a lot of teams still to make their way through. But there is a lot of openings here for quite a few teams on that northern side, purely because we had so many crossings early on. That really has not been a huge amount of bridge holds. Everybody kind of knows and understands how bridge holds tend to go. You get a couple of elims